Coming up next, the Bookening reads the 39 Steps. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bookening. This is Nathan. My name is Nathan, and I sound like this. What's your name and what do you sound like?
My name's Jake, and I sound like this.
And what is your name and what do you sound like?
My name's Ben. I sound like this.
All right, we've been introduced. Now, let's talk about the 39 steps. All 39 of them.
I might leave out a couple.
You're going to leave out a couple?
Definitely.
You only want to talk about 37 steps?
I think that's a reasonable number.
What's better? The 39 steps, the 10 commandments, 13 or 7 days and 7 nights. Oh, what are the other great number movies? The number 23, the great Jim Carrey classic.
Oh.
Yeah, that deserved that.
That was one of the most painful things I've ever had to sit through. 7,
the great David Fincher film. I've
also
moved
painful.
Moved us into the realm of movies. What are the other great number books?
Try and hear.
Can we name another number book without resorting to the internet? Surely we can.
7.
5 Children and It.
Yeah, I mean, my joke for the people, it was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and 12 Rules for Life. And
Sure.
What did you say?
5 Children and It.
Oh, sure. Well, there's 12 Little Indians, or 7 Little Indians, whatever number
Agatha
of Little
Christie.
Indians. There's the Agatha Christie thing. Although I think that's been retitled to And Then There Were None because people don't like the Indian thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe for other reasons. I don't know.
Huh. The only Christie book I've ever read, actually.
Really lame book in my opinion. Well, I mean, I know I'm famous for not liking Christie anyway at this podcast, but I just don't. The twist in that one, without ruining it, is not my favorite.
I didn't like it.
The book in general?
No, I didn't like
the
it.
Twist?
I didn't like the book. I didn't like the twist. I just didn't like it.
I mean, spoiler alert, isn't the twist kind of nobody did it that you could have known about? It was just another guy.
Well, it was one of the guys on the island. There were probably a couple of clues. He pretended that he was one of the victims, but really that was a fake, and he was busy setting up the murders of everyone else, and then he suicides. And
So for the purposes of our understanding as we read the book, he actually is one of the murder victims.
That's right. I just don't like that. Didn't like it.
Is that the template for thousands of slasher movies?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've not successfully named another number work of fiction. The 2, the 3.
The House of
7 Gables?
7 Gables.
There you go. Another great work of number fiction.
What is that book?
It's a Nathaniel Hawthorne book about a house. It's got 7 gables, and I'm sure some things happen there. I haven't read it.
The gables aren't green, though. And there's
No.
nobody named Anne.
There might be a person named Anne for all I know.
There might be.
Actually, the gables might be green for all I know.
What is a gable? I don't even know what a gable is.
Clark Gable.
Part of a wall that encloses the end of a pitched roof. Okay.
Part of a wall that encloses the end of a pitched roof.
Ta-da!
Guys, we're here to talk about the 39 Steps, one of the original adventure movies. I think I inflicted this on.
Books.
I mean, I keep saying movie because
Alfred Hitchcock is what you think of when you think of the 39 Steps.
great. Alfred
Mhm.
Hitchcock in his early British career or really at the height of his British career,
1935.
made this film before he came to Hollywood, but it's one of the classics of his British period. Not one of those weird, janky, early silent ones that aren't even suspense pictures. It's like one of the classic British movies of Alfred Hitchcock. And it's pretty good. And I think we'll talk about it over on Sanity at the Movies around the time this podcast comes out if you want to check out our sister podcast. But the thing is, we're talking about the book. And I decided we'd do that because we were looking for books to do. And I was like, hey, an adventure novel. That sounds fun. We like adventure. This is supposed to be the novel that created the adventure novel, basically created the whole genre of man on the run, which is a pretty great genre.
Man on the run.
It certainly inspired any number of Hitchcock-style suspense thrillers.
Yeah, and The Fugitive TV series and movie. I mean, anytime you see a narrative born, any kind of story that's just a guy moves from place to place, dodging bad guys.
Interacts with interesting people along the way.
Yeah, it's that sort of adventure style. Apparently, he
Makes friends that help him.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And is fleeing away from something as opposed to towards something. It's not Odysseus trying to get home. It's a guy that's been wrongfully accused in this particular case. But it can be anything.
Right. Or wrapped up in something.
Right. He's got to be on the run. So,
Yeah.
there we go.
There you go.
We thought this would be fun. And was it? Did it live up to our expectations? Well,
It was kind of fun.
Yeah, well, Ben,
That
don't give it away.
might be what I would say.
Yeah, that might. You could say that. You could say it was terrible.
I could say any number of things.
Listen, what you should say is something that involves giving us context for this word. He's the context king, operating the context ring.
Do my context thing.
Ben, what state are you from?
Tennessee?
Ben, of course, is from Tennessee, and he's going to provide some much needed context on this work. Hey, as the guy that's always done this podcast, you all know the shtick. It's from Tennessee, and
Well, we need some famous rivers. We got up the Chattahoochee.
You got the Tennessee River.
The Chattahoochee, I
The
like
Chattahoochee, all right. The Chattahoochee is a pretty great sounding river.
pardon me, sir, it's the Chattahoochee choo-choo. Is
Way down yonder on the Chattahoochee.
that actually the song?
No, it's the Chattanooga Choo Choo.
No, but what is
Wait,
That's
what?
an Alan Jackson song.
way down yonder on the Chattahoochee?
Yeah, but I'm not going to finish the line.
Something naughty happened?
Well, the next line's naughty. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Apparently, you should not go way down yonder on the Chattahoochee. All right. That's more times than I've said the word Chattahoochee than I expect. Chattahoochee, Chattahoochee, Chattahoochee. It loses all meaning if you say it too often.
That's any
It's so
word, but
full of
especially
meaning.
that one.
Right.
Full of meaning before.
Yeah, we all know what we mean when we say Chattahoochee. I think this podcast represents the sum total of times I've said Chattahoochee in my life. I don't think I've ever said it outside of this podcast. Ben, how many times would you say, as a Tennessee native, famous Tennessee boy?
He grew up singing that Alan Jackson song.
Right.
I've never heard of it.
Are you serious?
Think so?
You're a liar.
I might know it without knowing that I know it. I mean, I can't hear it in my brain.
Way down yonder on the Chattahoochee.
That was a good start, but a bad end.
Oh, I just saw the line. That is naughty.
Yeah, I told you.
I mean, it's naughty in a kind of adorable sort of way. But anyway.
We laid rubber on a Georgia asphalt, got a little crazy, but we never got caught.
There we go.
Down by the river on a Friday night, pyramid of cans and a pale moonlight, talking about cars, dreaming about women. Never had a plan, just living for the minute.
Music.
Did you say the naughty line in there?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I
he
skipped
did
it. It's
Okay.
what comes this way down yonder of the Chattahoochee, that line, and then everything else that I said.
Okay.
Is that they got that kind of like, I'm a dissipated person going nowhere. Emulate my life, you idiot. I hate country music and singer-songwriters.
90s country music. So what happened is my parents divorced, and then they both decided they liked country music for a couple of years.
Huh.
And that happened to include an Alan Jackson era in there for them. A
That
little
is
Alan Jackson, a little Garth Brooks.
I like
Little
older
George
country. I like alt country, but I don't like.
Saw Alan Jackson in
Mainstream.
concert when he came to Evansville. Saw Garth Brooks in concert when he came to Evansville. It's the thing that my parents would have taken us to.
Yeah, well,
Huh.
your parents both turning to country music, that's the kind of thing that a child never really overcomes, is it?
Good one.
People try and say it's for the best, or we needed this, or, we're all happier this way. They'll be happier when I'm happier.
It's not your fault,
It's
son.
not your fault. Wow. But a kid
knows.
The kid knows. We've got 3 children of divorce here in this podcast,
Oh,
ladies
man.
and germs. Okay, Ben, give us some context on the 39 steps.
Oh, all right. This is a book written by John Buchan. That's the best way I know how to pronounce his name. I want to say Buchanan, but it's not Buchanan. It's Buchan. Buchan. I don't know. That's all I got. Oh. All right.
Okay.
He was Scottish, and this guy was an interesting guy. He lived a lot of different roles in his life. So I'm just going to take a cheaty, shortcutty way out and read you a couple of Wikipedia paragraphs because
Wikipedia.
I take a cheat way out. I read it from
I can no longer talk. What can I say? This is my man, my boy, John Buchan. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, Jim Buchanan. That's what I said.
John Buchanan, yeah. Hey, Buchanan. My name.
You need what's his face? Never mind.
Christopher Walken?
No, yeah, I was hearing Christopher
Sure,
Walken.
yeah.
I was hearing
But what
Walken.
I was actually imagining was
Tony Soprano.
stop. I don't know why I can't pull his name right now. He's a different comedian. He's dead.
A dead comedian.
I really like him. We all do.
A
He's
dead comedian.
hilarious.
Was he like in movies
Well,
or stand up or?
Norm Macdonald.
Norm
or-
Macdonald.
okay.
Yeah, we
okay.
needed Norm Macdonald just deadpanning Jim Buchanan.
Yep.
Jim Buchanan, that's what I said.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
All right.
This dude, John Buchan.
John Buchan. He was born in 1875 and he died in 1940. So he got an interesting swath of life. And like I said, I'm going to cheat here. So from Wikipedia, after a brief legal career, Buchan simultaneously began his writing career and his political and diplomatic careers, serving as a private secretary to the administrator of various colonies in southern Africa. He eventually wrote propaganda for the British. What are you doing?
I wasn't doing anything.
Oh my goodness.
I was looking at a thing
Oh
on
my goodness.
I think I bumped an ad or
Wow.
something.
Wow.
It's IMDb.
Jake-
Okay.
Jake's invested in what I'm saying, folks. He's with me. He's with Wikipedia.
I want to hear Ben read random Wikipedia. Ben, you read that Wikipedia.
Fine.
I'm
It was
gonna do
Instagram
it.
stories,
Here
okay?
we go. Here we go. He eventually
Here's
wrote.
my TikTok feed.
He eventually wrote propaganda for the British war effort during the First World War, and skipping on stuff, and then he kept writing. What's your problem?
Let's hear Ben abridge Wikipedia.
I'm going to keep abridging. Okay, I'm done just reading Wikipedia. So he served in the First World War. He did a lot of stuff. He was like a journalist slash intelligence officer slash propagandist, and like upper class guy who entered the war as an officer, was familiar with the world. He graduated from Oxford. He was a writer there. He wrote poetry, if you would ever believe that. After reading the 39 Steps, he wrote essays. He liked to write. And after the First World War, and, where am I here in my context? He was elevated to the peerage in preparation for becoming the Governor General of Canada, which that was near the end of his life. So that was 1935 to 1940. He died in 1940. He was just in his 60s. And the Governor General of Canada is like Prime Minister, basically, sort of guy, sort of ish. He represents the king and he governs the colonies. And he was the guy to send Canada into World War II officially. So, and this guy was like an elder in the Church of Scotland and all kinds of stuff. So he just lived some of the life that you get the sense of in the 39 Steps. You really do. Like a guy who could probably speak a bunch of languages, had been overseas to all these different places, had been in an administrative role governing British colonies, and then been in intelligence and been in propaganda and been a journalist and mixed with all classes of people while remaining high class the whole time, ending his life as Governor General of Canada after being elevated to the peerage. He just had an interesting career. Wrote a lot of books, wrote 100 things, 30 novels, 7 collections of short stories, and various biographies, like biographies of Walter Scott and Caesar Augustus and Oliver Cromwell. So this guy had loads of interests. He really is a little more like his hero than you might imagine. But he started writing adventure novels. Here, Mr. Buchan. Yeah. So he started writing adventure novels, and in 1915 he published The 39 Steps, which is his most famous, and it was the first appearance of Richard Hannay, who would appear in several more novels by Buchan. And I don't know, this guy he was actually a patriot. He was actually a man of all seasons and a man of the world, like his hero, and he just wanted to write something fun and silly that had some basic values that he stood for. And I guess he did. This book was super popular. People loved it. And it was, even though it was published as a book first in Scotland, it was actually serialized before that in an American sort of pulp magazine. So it just got worldwide exposure. It was a huge success. And then, of course, it's been adapted into like 5 different movies and a bajillion radio plays by the BBC. And they're still talking about making some other, I think Netflix 39-step series or something, or movie. So people are not done adapting this. That's this guy. That's Buchan. But just a word about the kind of the pulps of the time. So the All Story magazine was an American pulp that published this. And it was a story paper. Story paper was this thing that existed in Britain before America where boys could read stories about adventures, and some of it very salacious and lurid and violent, and some of it, maybe not. But adventure stories for boys starting like in 1777 in Britain and going on until like 1973 when the final story paper called The Rover shut down in Britain, which is crazy, the serialized format. In America, these things had a different time span. It's like 1850 to 1910. And story papers, that kind of thing, leads into dime novels or penny dreadfuls where we're going to collect these serialized things in a little super cheap paperback form and repackage them and sell them again. And so UK is sending its sort of penny dreadfuls, which is what they called them, to the US, is sending its dime novels to the UK. And these things are going to lead into series books like the Bobbsey Twins and the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and Tom Swift and all that stuff.
I'm trying to figure out who wins the inflation war. If we have dime novels and they have penny dreadfuls, that means they're doing well, right?
It means if it's the same value, yeah, they got 10 times the value. And
they're getting a whole dreadful for a penny.
Yeah, and we have...
I don't know what the exchange rate was. I think you'd have to know the exchange rate to know what the actual value was coming across.
Well, if it's going to be equivalent, then their penny's worth a dime.
Yeah, that's a bad exchange.
Man, I don't know what happened.
The World Wars changed everything, and then we conquered. The British Empire was eclipsed.
Yeah. Yep, there you go. Well, this was super popular that way, serialized as a novel. And this, obviously, Buchan, even though he was Governor General of Canada and sort of an important, semi-important political figure in England at the time and had this career full of medals and awards and a peerage. The 39 Steps is what you remember. And then you remember Hitchcock, not the novel. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But this guy, I wonder how he's perceived, remembered by the British, because...
Well, on our actual novel, there's a Christopher Hitchens quote.
Yes, there is a Christopher Hitchens quote.
Yeah, it seems like British boys grow up with this thing and they like it. Well, and the BBC, that's like the official government broadcasting. It's the
PBS.
British. They're the ones that keep adapting this thing. So it must have some kind of cachet as a cultural artifact that people just like and remember fondly.
I think so. And I think it does embody some British morals and ideals of like, yes, here's the man of the world. He's high class, but he understands the low class. Perfect gentleman.
He can't do in between.
Right. The middle class is stupid.
He can't do in between the middle. Yeah, that's right.
Jews.
Which is funny because the middle class is the one who was buying up all these story papers and things. Ain't that
the way?
It was the new class that had a little extra pocket money and a little extra leisure time, and their kids who were like, well, I can afford to spend a penny to read a story, so I'll buy this. And so that's the class that's actually buying up.
Yes, but they're also imagining
serials.
that they are now the part of the elite class and that they came from the low class and that they understand both sides and are actually not the middle class that they really are.
Yeah, I think that the whole history of this stuff is
Facing
really
both
interesting.
sides of their snobbery.
Like, yeah, because you've got this. This is not a salacious book. The violence is pretty tame. There's nothing lurid really happens. Just sensational,
right?
You know. But so I guess you wouldn't have called this a penny dreadful, but the penny dreadfuls in Britain were the class of story papers that were like really more lurid.
No, that's where the legend of Sweeney Todd comes from.
Yeah, that's
for example. lot of early vampire literature, kind of cheap.
What is it, Vern the Vampire?
Varney the Vampire was
there
a
we go.
Penny
Varney
Dreadful.
the Vampire.
It was kind of a precursor to Dracula. Very lurid, very bloody, very sexual.
And then you've got the Halfpenny Marvel published to combat the Penny Dreadful. It cost a little less, and it was moralizing, and then it became, as A. Milne said, the publisher killed the Penny Dreadful by the simple process of producing the Halfpenny Dreadfuler.
Yep.
So you've got all this lurid stuff coming out all the time, and America has its own lurid stuff coming out all the time. We have Westerns.
Well, it is interesting to watch us seize the cultural narrative at a certain point in the 20th century and do away with the aristocrat hero. Because you go back to this era, even before it, and in Brit, you've got like, what's the name of this? The Scarlet Pimpernel, stuff like that. It's just accepted that an aristocrat, Zorro, you think about a Zorro story.
Right.
It's just accepted that, a high-born man can come and save us all and be awesome and help all the little people. And then that narrative goes so out of fashion at a certain point. And I think it's especially in the American pulps where you have Western heroes who aren't like that. And then you have like the hard-boiled kind of heroes who are mostly not the Agatha Christie kind of effete. There's something aristocratic about what's his face, Poirot, but somebody like Chandler or Marlowe or Sam Spade. These guys are very decidedly men of the people.
Right. Well, Zorro is an American pulp creation.
Yeah, true.
Right.
True.
Yeah. And now we have Zack Snyder to bring back the I'm in charge here kind of hero.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Well, lucky because I see a little plane flying over. It's the baggage plane, in fact. Indicating baggage check, the part of the show where we check our baggage, which you could be reminded of just by a plane flying over, but we're even doubly reminded of it because it's a baggage plane, whatever that is. A plane that carries baggage, I guess. Just like we all carry baggage. What baggage, Jake, did you carry into the 39 steps?
Nothing.
You wrestled with this book your whole life.
That's right, yeah.
Man, it's totemic.
All my expectations for transcendent boys' adventure novels were bound up inside of me as I came to this book with anticipation, expectation, hopes, and dreams. I had nothing. I thought maybe I had seen the 39 steps at some point, but I don't think I actually have. If I did, it was a long time ago, and I don't quite remember it. So I knew it was a Hitchcock. I knew Hitchcock used the plot or used the conceit or some aspect of it or the name or traded on the popularity of it to make a movie.
Right.
That's about all I knew. And I had the Christopher Hitchens quote on the front that was something like, before there was Arthur Conan Doyle and somebody else.
Yeah.
Although chronologically, this is not before there was Arthur Conan Doyle. So. But I think it does say...
What was the quote?
We all love this book so much that we obviously all have copies of it sitting in front of us that we're going to reference, just like we always do. The 39 Steps, our copy of it.
Oh, hey, I should correct something because I'm an idiot about Canada.
Yes.
But the Governor General is like technically over the Prime Minister and acts on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet.
I was actually wondering
about
about
the
that.
King. I'm just dumb about the polity.
1 star.
Yep. Maybe 0. I don't know.
Christopher Hitchen quote, 39 Steps.
I think it was about Buchan.
Well, far be it for any of us to go upstairs and actually look at the book. So we'll never... Oh, you got it in your backpack, Ben? This is exciting, folks. This is podcasting in action. Oh, boy. Oh, it's as suspenseful as the 39 Steps itself. Which is to say,
sir.
Kind of very mildly.
Well, drat.
And, folks, we just paused so that we could figure it out. What Hitchens said was he said, and this does make more sense, that Buchan was the bridge between Kipling and Fleming. So from one master that we all love to another master that we all love, stood a master that we all love.
From Gunga Din to James Bond, what do you need? You need the 39 Steps. That actually makes some sense.
From Gunga Din to Moonraker.
There you go.
There are 39 steps. See what I did there?
I do.
That was the perfect fake, polite laugh. Ben, what kind of baggage did you bring to this?
I saw the movie once. Hitchcock's movie, that is, not one of the 20 other movies. It was fun.
Yeah.
Liked it.
I remember liking the movie pretty
It's
well.
silly and fun.
Yeah.
That's all. It was a long time ago.
Yep. Same. Long time ago for me. Haven't seen it since. Remember kind of liking it. Okay. That was some exciting baggage. Now to the big picture. The part of the show where we give our big picture thoughts on the 39 steps. People have been waiting for it. Guys, what did you think about 39 steps?
It's fine. It's short. It was fun once you got into it. Once you got on the run, it had a little bit of propulsion to it. I could see it being something that any number of boys would read and be excited about.
Yes.
But I do think of it as being more of a young adult type of a thing than something I really want to commend to our readers to go invest in. Unless you just are looking for extra books to add to your, how many books did I read this year, end of year?
Oh, very easy book to do that with.
Yeah, you can take a couple hours and now you've read one extra book this year and can add it to your end of year list and impress people. And say that you ticked a box that, is something of a cultural touchstone for any number of people and certainly foundational to the genre of escape and chase narratives. So,
yeah, I mean, you just actually triggered a memory, which is I had a friend of a friend really, who was like a homeschool kid who had read these books. And we either watched the movie together or we were just talking about the movie. This would have been years ago. And he was mad at the Hitchcock movie because he loved this book. And he was just like, Hitchcock's Hannay is not my Hannay. This is a totally different character. He's so cool in the book and he's so dumb in the movie. And like, he really owned this thing.
That's interesting.
Which is weird. It's like impossible for me to imagine. I mean, I can get people loving Tarzan or any number of like characters from these kind of very two-dimensional pulp stories, but this guy's pretty thin, pretty weak sauce, in my opinion. Ben, I can say my big picture. I guess I might be the most negative one, although I don't know. It took me a long time to get through this book just because I kept hitting the first chapter and just like not liking it at all. And not that any of us are huge lovers of this book. This book kind of embodies everything that I don't like. It's kind of the thing I always describe with not liking about Agatha Christie, and that there's no atmosphere and no characters and no sort of dialogue to actually get behind. It's just stuff happening, which is like my least favorite kind of book in the world. It's not his fault. I mean, it's fine for what it is. Although my only other kind of criticism, I'll save it for twists and turns. Ben, what did you think about the 39 stuff? Kind
of fun. Not something I would go back to or even have on my shelf, except for this podcast.
Yeah, this is going to be a rousing
It's going to be a rousing discussion. I mean, you do see, I wonder if future Richard Hannay adventures are a little more interesting.
What would be interesting, actually, is if you were the type of writer who was good at atmosphere and character and things like that.
Right.
But maybe not so good at putting together a little propulsive plot. And what would be a really great exercise is to recreate the 39 steps with your character beats and your whatever else, because it does get propulsive at a certain point. And it is just always like, it follows the sort of like golden, I don't know if it's Stephen King or whoever's rule of, if your scene says this happened and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened, then it's boring and stupid. Mm. But if what connects every moment we're seeing is a but, this happened, but this happened, therefore this happened, but this happened, therefore this happened, then you have something that's interesting and propulsive. And
although I agree with you, but doesn't he sort of just stumble on the bad guy's hideout? Was there any logic to that? Or did he just randomly go to a completely different country and then find himself, did I miss something? Like when he gets captured and has to blow up, dynamite his way out, was there a reason that he was there?
He was being chased. And so they were
chasing, they were like drawing him into their net.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least the way that I made sense of their house being there is they had known where he was, so they found a place to sort of stake out or hide out or something. Well,
but that
it has to have more of that because of all their dynamite and everything.
Area.
They had a landing strip and they had
Yeah.
all of their like C4 and dynamite and whatever
Right.
stocked in the basement. So yeah, he does end up getting, now maybe they were chasing him towards themselves.
You could sort of backfill it, I guess, but I don't know that it was, to me at least, it was not readily apparent.
No, it could just as easily read like a coincidence. Like of all the places in all of Scotland, he happened to run right up on their lair while he was being chased by the cops.
I guess that felt confusing. When you compare this to a hero like James Bond, I found it kind of interesting in its embryonic form that this story is so just like, there's no particular, Hannay, I think that's how you say his name, our protagonist, like he's obviously a cool dude, like a stiff upper lip sort of great guy.
He's going to do the right thing and he's pretty competent and capable.
Yes, he's pretty much just good at everything.
But he's always going to say, well, I'm not much of a detective, but I laid out all the clues and figured them out.
Right.
Now, I'm not very good as a driver, but I swerved and raced around. He's just, he's always telling me that he's, I'm not much of a...
I wasn't quite
I'm
sure
not much of a physical specimen, but I hiked for 5 days with 2 biscuits across the Scottish Trail.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah, no, that is a pretty common...
Yeah.
But there's like nothing that, as opposed to James Bond, where it's like, it's his job. It's like, why is this guy part of this adventure? It's just because he's bored and he decides to be. Like, there's nothing that makes him the guy for this adventure. There's nothing.
Well, he was an adventurer to begin with.
Right.
He was a world traveler. He was looking for exciting, adventuresome things. He's totally bored by London and England. And then this interesting character waltzes into his apartment and he's like, I think you're kind of full of crap, but your story's interesting, so you can hang out here for a while. And then he starts to get convinced. And he's like, okay, well, at least this is not being bored. And well, now what am I supposed to do? I'm accused of murder. So
yes,
I'm not trying to like,
no,
I mean,
I
it's
know.
all fantastic and stupid, but
It just felt, from looking at it through jaded modern eyes, having seen millions of these stories, it just felt kind of weirdly lackadaisical. Like this guy was just like, one day I decided I'm on an adventure now.
It is. I mean, I think you should remember that this guy, that Buchan, is breaking new ground.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very
And,
well.
and he had a pretty self-conscious conception of what he was doing. He called this a shocker, meaning something that you could just barely maybe believe is happening as someone reading it. So,
like, he's doing it for boys and not quite believing it himself as he reads. Like, it's,
yeah.
Well, but also it's playing into sort of the British spirit of we're a naval power, we go, we explore. The Hannay's actually a colonist from South Africa or something, right? Isn't that how it starts?
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's like,
right.
It's like he comes from the kind of people that just like get in a ship and go across the ocean and end up in South Africa. And then he comes and he travels the world, and all the world is Britain, and is looking for the next great adventure and fun thing. And he's just embodies that sort of British adventure spirit that any British schoolboy at that time would have especially grown up with. And that feels those naval novels and all that sort of thing too.
But it's just interesting, even when you say that, I'm like, if I was writing that book now, like just writing the story you just described, I would put so much more mustard on that particular part of the dish. Like, it would just be like,
you wouldn't assume it.
Yeah, it would be like, well, this guy, he loved to go on adventures. Let me tell you how much he loved adventures. And then I realize this book kind of does that. He talks about how bored he is, but it's like, I would go so far out of my way to make that his character trait.
But if you were to come with a different set of assumptions, and you're writing this novel in the
1915.
Yeah, in 1915, and this guy's from Texas.
Right.
And he's decided to tour the East Coast. And he's bored out of his mind by the civilization of the East Coast because he's from the frontier. Like, he's a Texan. He's from the kind of people that made their way west and tamed
just put
the Indians
10-gallon hat on him, and
put a 10-gallon hat on him and stick him out. You know who he is. He's just the kind of guy. He's a cowboy.
Right.
That's what he is, and he's going to do some cowboy stuff. And he's going to get a chance to do some cowboy stuff in the boring, stupid big city. He's just going to do some cowboy stuff, and so you wouldn't feel as much need to set the table.
Yeah. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Ben, you saying like this was the first time anybody done that. I mean, you cannot undersell that part of how exciting this book must have been if somebody had never read a basic chase. We've all seen so many
It's
TV
ubiquitous to
shows.
us
It's
now.
just like you don't have to even like
It's its
movies
own
or
genre.
TV. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I'd say the closest modern analog, which that pops into my mind for this exact thing, which is hugely popular right now, is Reacher. He's just a guy. Even there, you got way more backstory and setup and stuff. But basically, what those stories boil down to is he's a hero for some reason. He wanders into a random situation and then he kills a bunch of bad guys, and dads everywhere love it. And there's just
what he does. Can you imagine if your whole life was just wearing jeans and t-shirt and carrying around nothing but a toothbrush and being awesome?
Yeah, just and being bigger than everybody and
bigger, stronger, and smarter than everybody, and just being able to kill the crap out of all the bad guys and be your own force of justice wherever you go, then just disappear.
Yeah, and I mean, I have actually read a couple of
Batman, but
yeah. But Batman has like atmosphere and paraphernalia and stuff and things and a tragic backstory. You know, Batman like has all this bat gadge and well, pun very much intended, I guess. Pun intended, but apologized for. But, you know.
Well, what this guy does have, which is something you could find in British novels of this kind, like James Bond, is the government. Like, he's on board with the authority structure. He like wants to work within it. He's not interested in being a vigilante. Actually, he's like, oh, phew, finally, I'm not a vigilante anymore, halfway through the book. Now, that is not an American idea of this kind of hero.
No, it's very, and he's not like, Sir Walter, I'm going to tell you how it is. He's like, yes, Sir Walter's obviously on my side.
Sir Walter, finally, someone to appeal to above me.
Yeah, we're both like some good chaps. We're both good eggs.
And that's something I've even noticed, in a different kind of book, the YA novels of Diana Wynne Jones. Like, she has that flavor. Like, oh yeah. Yay for authority. You're like, who are you? Don't you know what era you're in?
Something very un-American about it.
Yeah, Sheehan breathes the poison of that, at least.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that in those kinds of things too. And it is funny. It is striking how my favorite part in this book, which is really silly, is when they make their final plan to go and bust the bad guys. And there's all these government officials and lords and stuff like that. And Hanae's like, they'd sort of let me take over everything. I think they could tell I was the sort of man that could handle these kinds of things. So they're all just deferring to me for some reason. And it doesn't like now it would be like, Sir Walter says you can't do it, but you're going to go rogue. And James Bond, the dumbest thing about those Daniel Craig, James Bond movies is every movie he has to go rogue again and again and again. I hate it. Like, just give him a mission and let him go bust a bad guy or something. Like, I want to see James
Bond and Ethan Hunt.
Yeah. I hate going rogue. It's my least favorite trope in all these kinds of adventure things. I understand we like our heroes to have a chip on our shoulder about authority. We're American.
One man against the world. That's what you got to get it to. And going rogue is just the cheap, easy way to get there.
But here's the thing about James Bond is it's fun that he's beating the system at its own game by being a part of the system. Like, Sean Connery doesn't have any respect for the British government, but he likes having a license to kill. He likes sleeping with ladies, and he does his job. And if he could save the world at the same time, great. Like, that's actually a more fun fantasy in some ways, a more fun anti-authoritarian fantasy even than just he's bruised and battered and going rogue all the time. Like, I don't know. I think it's fun when these guys can defy the system but also be part of the system. I always liked it when Batman had a phone line to Commissioner Gordon and they were buddies. I like it that Patterson Batman is buddies with Jeffrey Wright, Commissioner Gordon. Like, I think it's more fun that way when there's some institutional weight behind these guys. I don't know why, but anyway, good for you, Hanae.
Structure of the universe.
Structure of the universe, yes. I don't need them to just be like corporate lackeys or anything like that. But when there's some kind of structure to how they operate, I think it just adds extra juice to the story. Speaking of juice, oh boy, we are going into the Hall of Heroes. This is where we talk about the protagonist from this book. Let's talk about John Hanae. I don't know what this guy's name is, but
Richard
Hanae, yes. What a guy.
What a guy.
That's what you're supposed to say. I'd like to be like him.
A stiff upper lip.
I can be an ordinary Joe. If I'm just a sort of competent man of the world, I can fight my way through anything.
He's a great guy.
Embody the British spirit.
Yep.
What it's supposed to be.
He's comfortable in the low classes and comfortable in the high classes, but
just keep him away from the middle class.
Yeah, he doesn't want anything to do with the middle class.
Tepid, lukewarm middle class. Eesh.
Who is a quintessentially middle-class hero? Is there actually a quintessential middle-class hero? Maybe there's
Indiana
tons of them.
Jones?
Yeah, that's the first one I thought of too. I guess that's it.
Huh. Okay.
But even Indiana Jones, it's like his Bruce Wayne getup is kind of middle class. He pretends to be a middle class professor guy, but then he's dining with Maharajas and stuff. He's either like scrapping by with Sulla or he's dining in the palaces of kings. He's actually kind of more bouncing between high and low class when he's on his adventures.
He's more like a soldier of fortune who would fraternize with high or low class.
Yeah. But he's kind of bored when he's just like in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Tony Stark, very high class. Captain America, very low class. I wonder if it isn't easy to. I don't. This might be total bull. I'm just throwing this out here as a theory.
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker, but he's low class.
He's middle.
But he starts low. The romance of Peter Parker is low class.
No, it's
I
low
don't
middle
know.
though.
I think it's pretty middle
middle.
class.
Okay, fine.
Low class is like poverty stricken. Peter Parker's never poverty stricken. He's just like his aunt always has enough to feed him and stuff. So.
But like a lot of storylines will be like we can't pay the bills or
Yeah, but that's like lower middle class problems.
lower middle class. Okay, but he's not just like suburban.
He's not suburban comfortable.
Miles Morales, I will grant you, is fully middle class.
Yeah.
Peter Parker, I'm not quite so sure.
Miles is in expensive private school.
Right? Yeah,
yeah.
Miles is. Well, Miles, we could actually make an argument is high class in his way, but his dad's middle.
His
class.
dad's a cop.
Yeah,
His mom's a nurse. That's upper middle class.
upper middle class. Oh, maybe there's lots of middle class heroes. I was just thinking. I wonder if it's easier to slot a hero into one of the two more romantic. It's easy to romanticize the high class. It's easy to romanticize the low class. It's not so easy to romanticize the humdrum middle class.
Well, but your boy heroes are always going to come from a middle class background. Luke Skywalker is going to be middle class.
Yeah, that's
Harry Potter is going to be middle class. It's going to be the humdrum suburban that your life that you're being called out of on your hero's journey.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think I could also argue that, like, for example, Harry Potter at least almost has a from rags to riches kind of feel to it, even though
Because of how he's treated and because he's an orphan.
right. He kind of feels like he's in poverty, and then once he gets to Hogwarts and starts to level up, he kind of feels like he's wizard class now, baby. Like he's on his way to being an aristocrat of his time and place.
Yeah, but he's not, because he's just going to end up as an Auror working in the Ministry of Magic.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Well, J.K. Rowling loves the middle class. That's one of the things that's charming about her books. And she loves the lower middle class, in particular, the Weasleys.
The Weasleys are such a sweet part of that book series.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you who is aristocratic is J.R.R. Tolkien. Frodo is not middle class. Frodo is...
Well, Sam's his servant.
Right, exactly. You've got some lovable middle class or low class characters, but basically we've got low and high and not a lot of in between.
Yep.
And the guys that he thinks are really cool are the high class. Like,
All Steven Spielberg heroes are middle class heroes.
yes, that's true. They're everymen.
Every protagonist is a suburban kid or suburban dad or mom or something.
Well, I guess in my mind, I was thinking hero more than protagonist.
That's fair.
You know, like when we're going to imagine someone who's capable and cool and fighting bad guys and stuff, does that guy usually come from the middle class?
Yeah, I guess the reason I went there was Luke and Harry Potter, and then for some reason my mind jumped to Elliot.
Yeah. Elliot's obvious. I mean, obviously, yeah. You could think of lots of middle class protagonists. I mean, even Luke, I would say he's obviously middle class, but he's secretly an aristocrat. Like he comes from Jedi and he needs to become
Okay,
Jedi.
fine. And
he
he's
used to
son
be
of a princess.
He's a Skywalker, a Lord of the Universe.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know it yet. He's not really. He's highborn. He's not lowborn.
Yeah, well, he's Arthurian in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But Anakin's not. But Anakin's low class.
Anakin's virgin birthed by the universe or by Palpatine.
By the Force, by Palpatine, according to the, I think, comic canon.
Right. I want to argue that Anakin's high class. He's poverty. He's slave
maybe
class.
You're both. He's slave class, but aristocratically conceived.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what's been in the back of my mind this whole time is we've always had aristocrat heroes and king heroes. And maybe
that's Jesus.
Right.
He's the king of heaven who is born in a manger to a low-class family.
Yeah, that might be our favorite hero trope, which is what everybody loves is this guy's actually a king, but he just doesn't know it, or everyone else doesn't know it, or he's going to find it out, or he's got to learn how. Yeah. Anyway, Richard Hannay.
Strength, hiding, and weakness.
Yes, exactly. But there's no strength, hiding, and weakness in Richard Hannay. There's just strength, hiding, and strength. cool guy. Anything else to say about this great hero?
No.
Well, that leads us into the opposite time, the time of the villain. Go into the villain's lair. What did you guys think about the villains? You got the Prussians, you got the Jews.
The man who could hood his eyes.
The man who could hood his eyes.
The man with the lisp. Memorable.
I will say one thing that does not pass the ocean of time, one thing that doesn't hold up about this book at all, that's just, you just wouldn't do it this way. It just strains credulity. Although maybe there's a way that you would do this trope now, but just the idea that this guy is always meeting someone. And he's like, I took one look at him and I decided he was a good chap and I'd share the deepest conspiracies of the world with him. And then he'll meet another guy and be like, I could tell he was a rotter and actually probably a double agent. The
physiognomy was a big deal at that time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe the way we do that trope now is we do like the Sherlock type, like I'm a super autistic genius that can read someone with my hyper empathetic whatever.
Yeah, I read their body language as opposed to I read their physiognomy.
Right. But we would make it into more of like a regular people can't actually do that sort of thing. Right. Whereas this is just like the chap came into my hotel room and I decided I trusted him and was going to go on a big adventure based entirely on random things he was telling me.
On the size of his cranium.
Right. I measured his cranium with one of those.
The breadth of his forehead.
I took my weird claw tool thing out and measured.
Calipers, we call them.
Calipers, yes.
We were going to talk about villains.
Yes, villains.
There's not much to say.
There's the Black Stone. Is that the name of the bad guys?
It's the name of the bad guys. Is it the Germans?
Who is it?
Is it the Germans?
Yes.
Und you will fear us? Sorry.
No,
but they're so... Oh, man. Oh, something.
And they're the world's best method actors.
Yeah, they really are really good. Until he shifts everything in his mind, and then he sees that what looked like dignity was actually nefarious scheming or whatever. At the end, the ending is quite silly. It's like, oh no, is he going to blow the whistle or not blow the whistle? Like, why not just arrest these guys and
sort it out later? Well, there's half a chance that these guys are okay. But if they're not, if they're everything I think they are, everything they appear to be, everything that all our clues have led us to this entire time, they're going to overthrow the world and plunge us into World War III. Let's blow the whistle and find out later.
Yep. But it is kind of, I do enjoy that last chapter quite a bit. What do they play chess with them or something like that?
Bridge,
yes.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh my, I was just at the club when that happened. Boo, boo. This does belong to a genre, I think. It's a little bit downstream of a genre called invasion literature, which was quite popular in Britain. We talked about it in Ben might have talked about it a little bit on our episode of Sanity at the Movies, where we talked about Big Trouble in Little China, because the Fu Manchu stories that's riffing on are very much part of invasion literature. Just the idea that things are a-stirring and we're afraid that somebody is going to invade our little island and destroy our way of life. And you see it in the works of like G.K. Chesterton. Like anybody that's at that time is just like, man, there's a lot of others out there. I mean, I suppose
it's a great Patrick Swayze movie about the same thing.
About there being a lot of others out there.
Red Dawn.
Oh, yeah, no. It took me a minute. I was like, Roadhouse isn't about that at all. Point Break? Like Ghost?
Some My Amazing Pulls there.
Pretty amazing.
Patrick Swayze, he made 4 or 5 movies that people like. Yeah, but just the idea that the other is out there, whether it's those Jewish bankers, we've got that trope in here, whether it's the Germans, whether H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds is one of the most famous examples of a big invasion literature metaphor, where instead of making it the Germans, he makes it the Martians, and man, did that capture people's imaginations.
Steven Spielberg said, they're the terrorists.
They're the terrorists. And for my money, that really captured my imagination. That movie is very visceral, I would say.
It was the right time.
Yeah, it was the right time. But I mean, yeah, like the shot of like they're in the car screaming and fleeing as chaos.
People are turning to dust.
People turn to dust behind them.
He gets back to the place and he's covered in dust and
like the dust of dead people.
Realizes it's the remains of all these people that he was running through and freaks out.
Yep. It's pretty visceral.
We should watch that movie.
I like that movie. I think. I don't know.
I didn't like it. but maybe I'd have a better opinion of it now.
I felt it. I'm not sure I loved it. I'm not sure I felt like it was a
feel
good
it.
movie, but I felt it.
I really felt it. Just the blah of those tripods and everything I thought was really powerful.
Well, he did like 2 9/11 movies, and that was one, and then the other one was Munich.
Munich was one, yeah.
Not like Munich.
I never saw that one.
Kind of gross.
I think there's an argument to be made that that's a pretty great era of Spielberg. The Minority Report, War of the Worlds, like the early '80s Spielberg.
I always loved Minority Report.
I've never wanted to go back to it because I suspect it doesn't hold up. But
yeah, but it's such a... I went back to it several years ago, and I just thought, okay, there's a lot that doesn't hold up, but there's a lot that still does. And you just see so much of how he either was ahead of things or he was shaping things or both. He was just tapped into the zeitgeist of where things were and where things were headed. And it's pretty amazing. Maybe it's what they call predictive programming. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if I'm Apple, then I'm going to design my products based on, hey, I'm glad we don't have to wear gloves, though.
Yeah, no, the glove idea was stupid, but the intuitive touch-based visual eye tracking stuff, ads tailored for you.
Yeah, it all feels very prescient. And he has a jetpack, and he lights some hot dogs on fire with it by accident. It's like how sometimes Spielberg can't help himself, even when he's trying to make a really somber kind of dystopian movie. He's like, hey, we can have some hot dogs.
I got a great joke. Trust me, the kids will love this one.
You remember those gophers? You remember how much they liked the gophers and Indiana Jones and the dial of the crystal spaceman? Man, I really can't pull the name of that movie. I wasn't just doing a bit there. What is that
Kingdom
called?
of the Crystal
Kingdom of the
Skull.
Crystal Skull. There we go. All right. It's so darn memorable. Guys, anything else to say about the villains?
The guys that are chasing are a good guy.
They are at that. They've got aeroplanes. That felt very much like maybe Hitchcock had that in mind when he did North by Northwest.
Northwest.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Like I'm running through a countryside and there's airplanes after me. Well, guys, man, I should have got to this earlier because there's going to be a ton of conversation here. Secondary characters. We are entering into the crawlway of secondary
I like
characters.
that road man.
I like the guy where he's like, and then I ran across Biff. He'd been a real idiot. So I punched him on the nose or sort of stole his car.
Don't you know I'm the guy responsible for the Portland Place murders?
If you're
And
not
I'm gonna
careful,
kill
there'll be
you
another
too.
one. Oh, my goodness. He just runs into... it's just an endless series of coincidences.
Yes, there's a lot of coincidences.
That's all that there is, really.
Well, but how big is England?
It's like the size of Indiana or something like that.
Well,
I
he's
mean,
in
it's-
Scotland for a good portion.
Okay, how big is Great Britain?
The United Kingdom is about 2.8 times smaller than Texas.
There are 11 states which could fit the UK inside of them.
Weird.
I'm just saying, if it was Indiana.
The United Kingdom is about the same size as Michigan, it says here.
Okay, so that's fairly comparable to Indiana. If we were on some adventure,
It wouldn't be that hard for us to.
it wouldn't be that hard to run into people across the state, in any part of the state. For goodness sake, I don't know how many times I've been on vacation in Florida or someplace like that and seen people from my hometown. Like, oh, hi, you're here. Like, that happens all the time.
Okay.
It's weird, but it happens.
Yeah,
And
I've had some weird things like that happen too.
But I think the counter argument to that is fiction actually is not allowed to be as random as real life. Fiction always has to feel like it has a point.
Okay, fine. I'm not gonna argue that. I'm just trying to make a little space.
No,
for-
I think you're making a noble argument. I also think this book is really silly, and probably its author would be the first to admit it. But you're right. Anything else to say about the secondary characters? Sir Walter? You guys got Sir Walter thoughts? What a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Able to trust this dude suspected of murder, and you were cleared. The guy took care of you, and now we're all on the same page here.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
I'm gonna fish some more.
I'm going to fish. Hey, guys, we're... Oh, man. It's the Roadster driving through a very twisty and turny road, it sounds like.
Leading us into twists and turns. Ben, what was your favorite twist and or turn from this novel?
It's a hard question, Devil.
There's so many of them.
Oh, let's see. I just have a really hard time answering that. Every twist and turn felt like not a twist or a turn.
Kind of
it just felt like
arbitrary.
it felt so arbitrary that I am having even though I enjoyed it decently, I'm having a hard time.
I do always like the trope of I think I'm finding safety and then it's the bad guy's lair. That's a fun one.
Yeah. I mean, I would have liked that if that hadn't felt equally arbitrary or.
Well, these guys are so careful that they're plotting the downfall of Western civilization, but they lock this dude in the basement with all their dynamite, and they lock him there, and they lock him there insecurely. And they don't think he's a guy who stumbled into some information. They think he's a super spy. There's just a lot of.
Well, and if these guys were like
if
true,
you stop to think about it for half a second, it's all stupid.
if these guys were villains in the vein of like an actual James Bond villain, well, James Bond villains I admit do make stupid mistakes, like tying him up in a room with a trap and leaving him to die instead of just shooting him. But they should know that this guy is proficient with dynamite. Like they should already know everything about this guy. Like they've had time to figure out who he is and where he comes from and what his skill set is. But be that as may, my favorite. But
It's from a mining colony like Lando Calrissian.
yeah,
Now, I didn't quite know what to do with C4, but I took my best guess and I did the
Put
fuse
this
and
wire
I
with
did
these
exactly
wires.
what needed to be done in the end.
Put
Blew
in
up
the right
just
place.
the right amount of the building. And she
didn't quite
escaped.
know how to achieve nuclear fusion, but
I had a rough idea from my,
you see.
my
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 day studying
physics
physics with
course.
Albert Einstein.
oh man.
No, I'm not one for the German, but I caught it what was clearly a Berlin accent.
There was a lot of that, wasn't it? I had a friend. He was a master of disguise.
And from him I learned just the basics, you see.
Which allowed me to transform myself perfectly.
About 20 times. I'm just an everyman, you see. Just a sort of everyman. There's no reason that I should be any good at any of this.
Right. I just happen to be good at everything. I did like the disguise craft, and the idea of fitting in with your environment, and that you could have the best like fake beard, but you'd still, if you don't know how to wear it, that stuff was kind of fun. That felt like the most credible spy craft thing.
I agree. I think it's actually really credible for the same reason. It's sort of like the same idea that it's super easy to steal something if you act like you belong there and you are supposed to be doing what you're doing.
Right.
That sort of thing. Even when I was working as a commercial painter, there were times that I had to just play a role. You go into a place and it's just like, if you ask permission to go back and fix something after they're already up and running, they're not going to give it to you and they're going to cause you all kinds of problems. You show up and you're just like, hi, I'm here to do a thing. You walk back, you act like you own the place. You act like you're superior to everybody. You do your job and leave. You realize how easy it is to,
I really do
People-
believe that. I think a white guy with a blazer and a clipboard could get into the deepest room in the Pentagon just by walking in with confidence. I really do think that's basically not an exaggeration. That's what I've seen. I mean, the Pentagon's a silly exaggeration, but
that in particular is an exaggeration, but in general, that's not an exaggeration. A white guy with a clipboard or a white woman with a clipboard.
nicely dressed.
Yeah.
Not too nicely dressed. Just
Or a black woman with a clipboard for that matter. Somebody who people are just going to like not be ready to question, right? But you put a clipboard in their hand, you give them a blazer, you give them just the right kind of clothing and say, I'm here to inspect X, Y, and Z. Own it, act with confidence your way in and out of things. So I think it's super easy. And it's the only way to really pull something like that off.
Yep. So there you go. A genuine bit of observation in the 39 Steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I was a janitor and it's in, unlocked buildings and stuff like that, it was really eye-opening working at a Big Ten university just to see where you could get access to just wearing a janitor. I mean, I don't have any specific examples
Right.
in mind,
And
but
you
it's
wouldn't even have to. People are going to avert their eyes at you if you're a janitor.
Right.
They're not going to, they don't want to notice you and they don't want to interrupt you and they don't want to question you and they don't want you to not be doing your job, and they don't maybe want to be mingling with that particular class of person. And there's all kinds of reasons why you put on your brown utility shirt or whatever it was, or your blue utility shirt and push around a mop bucket, and you really can get just about anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we didn't do it to nefarious ends, but it was just like, oh crap, I left something in the president's office or something. You just walk in there. Nobody cares. You walk past people. It could be during the day. You walk past the receptionist. Like, you just do it as long as you don't make a deal of it.
Yeah, just act like you're supposed to be there.
Yep. And if somebody says, hey, then you just mumble something that sounds halfway plausible and keep walking.
Don't worry, I just have to get my this or that, or I have to check on this thing real quick.
Like, people don't like making trouble. They have their own problems. They'd rather you not be a super thief. And what are the chances of you being a super thief anyway? So I know it's like a trope, but I always buy that in movies when the hero dresses up so that he can get into, he's just a janitor or something. I think that's how you would do it.
I got onto, as a college student, I used football field in the middle of the night. Got the janitor to let me in with some buddies. Just acted like I was supposed to be there. Hey, can you come unlock this door for us? We need to get on the field.
Yeah, well, that was the other observation I had as a janitor is, whatever, we don't want to get in trouble. It's not our job to.
Right.
Like, if somebody just says with confidence, I'm the this and I need access to that.
Right.
Nobody's going to question that.
Yeah, and you just you have enough confidence about you and enough whatever, and it's like, oh, he must be one of the football players or team managers or one of the dozens of a support staff that,
Yep. Yeah, it's really true. So there you go, future budding thieves or people that need access to top secret locations. That's what you do.
And then what they remember is that it was a janitor. What they remember is it was a guy wearing the IU clothes that looked like a whatever ball player or something. They don't remember you.
Right, exactly.
They remember the character that you played.
Mm-hmm.
They remember the uniform.
Yep. Well, the thing that I remember about this book is the style. And we are entering now into the salon of style. All those French salons full of receiving and partying, cocktails and stuff, as you can tell from the music. Now, Ben, how'd you feel about this style? 39 steps.
Dude's a very competent writer, very happy to you with a very big vocabulary, very happy, content with slang, very acquainted with various realms of upper and lower class, genuinely acquainted, knows all the words for all the things. Found myself looking up lots of British slang or British words that are archaic now that I had no idea what he was talking about or what these things were. And that actually was fun. I was like, this is kind of cool. You're introducing me to some things I've never heard of. There's not a lot more to say about the style than that. It's competent, it's workmanlike. It reminds me of some other sort of pulpy books that I've read that don't ask a whole lot of you. But at the same time, because it's older, because this guy was really educated, there's a level of craftsmanship in the prose and in the description even of the countryside that is well above the average of what you'd find in one of these kinds of things written today.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I love reading another centuries or another time period's trash. It's just always fun to see, like, you can always get something more out of it, even if it's just observing and being amused by the cultural differences. It's just, and generally speaking, older trash is better written.
Yep. Not a lot else to say. I mean, it's not remarkable style. It's not beautifully written. It's not really anything.
It's not distractingly bad in any way.
Yeah, it's not.
It gets the job done at every point.
Gets the job done. That's right. Yeah.
You see what you're supposed to see. You understand what you're supposed to understand.
Yeah, it's kind of bland.
Yeah, there's nothing very writerly that's going to be like, oh, it's very poetic or really nice or striking.
Yeah.
But also nothing that's just going to be like, what a pig slop am I?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that he cared more about atmosphere, not by which I don't mean like I need long descriptions of locations and stuff. Obviously, that's the worst. But I just mean like making me feel like we're in Scotland now. That place has its own character as opposed to England, as opposed to... That is one of the things that...
I didn't feel too bad about that. We got some bogs and...
Yeah, we did. We did.
There's a lot of landscape description.
There's a really famous...
Farmers and shepherds and...
I need to find this essay by C.S. Lewis. We've talked about it on the Bookening before.
I was thinking of this very thing.
The essay about there being two kinds of readers. Is that the one?
It's called On Stories, right? Or
Yeah,
something
like that. And he describes a passage from The Last of the Mohegans where Pippi Longstocking or whatever his name is, Daniel Day-Lewis is there, and he's fishing or something, and there are some bad guy Indians sneaking up on him with tomahawks. And he describes the thrill that he felt reading this as a kid. And then he describes talking to a friend, and his friend saying, the thing that I hated about that book and thought was boring was the fact that they were in America, the fact that there were trees, the fact that it was Indians. Like, what I just wanted was the suspense of bad guys sneaking up on good guys, and all the other stuff got in the way of that. Like, it would have been just as good if it was two guys with guns sneaking up on a guy in an apartment. And C.S. Lewis realized it's not that you're a bad person and I'm a good person, but we are two fundamentally different kinds of readers. You want something different. Like, for me, the romance of I'm in this untamed wilderness and there are these savages sneaking up on me with tomahawks is the excitement. You remove that, you strip it away, and you don't have anything left that's interesting. Whereas for you, all that atmosphere is what's getting in the way of the thing that's interesting, which is antagonist. And C.S. Lewis is like, this explained to me why I never liked Alexander Dumas and the Three Musketeers and stuff like that, because it's just an in after in after in after in after D'Artagnan. Like, D'Artagnan could just as easily be a soldier as a musketeer. It's just stuff happening. There's nothing uniquely French or musketeer-y, or it's just bad guy, good guy, romance, whatever. And I C.S. Lewis don't like that. And I really resonated with that. And I think I basically agree with C.S. Lewis. It's why I love Raymond Chandler. It's why Jake had trouble with the first Raymond Chandler, I think, that we read on this podcast. And then once you knew what it was and came back to it later, you liked it. But it's like Raymond Chandler is all atmosphere and just doesn't even care about.
Well, it's some of it. A lot of it, I think, is expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a detective novel.
Yeah.
I expect, and I'm looking forward to a plot heavy thing. And there's just like nothing there.
There's nothing there. Yeah.
But coming back to him with Farewell, My Lovely was just a lot of fun because I had a different set of expectations, and he's a really fun, enjoyable writer.
Yeah. Well, anyways, as far as where this book falls on the spectrum, I'd say, yeah, there's a little Scottish character, but also if this was set in America, if this was set on a foreign country, like, it wouldn't change it that much in terms of the way this guy approaches it. And that is part of what makes it a little bit more boring to me, is there's not not a lot of like the feeling of what it would be like to be on the run in Scotland as opposed to any other place in the world. Like, what would that? It's what a movie could probably bring to this. That would add a lot of character and flavor and fun. Would be like, he's running past the shepherdess girl and he's got to put on a kilt. I mean, I don't know anything about Scotland, obviously. I'm just grabbing cliches here, but
he does end up putting on a kilt.
I mean, he does do some of the things you're talking about. He runs into Scottish peasants who like take him in a particular way, feed him very particular food.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it just, for me at least, it didn't have the.
No, I know what you mean. It's like it has the notes, but not the music. Kind of.
Exactly. It didn't make me feel anything like Scottish. Anything else to say about the style?
No.
No. All right, we're into the haven of reflection upon deeper meaning.
There is no deeper meaning.
I mean, the deeper meaning is, yay, England!
Yeah, that's right. Britain rocks.
Britain rocks. British can-do spirit and stiff upper lip rocks.
You too could be the ordinary man, quote unquote, who steps into an extraordinary situation and saves the day with your ordinary skills, quote unquote.
Man, yeah. The Germans are bad, I guess. I don't know. This book has been dinged for its xenophobia by the modern left, and I would say, yeah, ding it. Go ahead. It's very dingable. I'm not personally offended by that, but is this guy xenophobic in a way that no longer flies? Yes. I'm not going to try and pretend like that's not true. Anything else to say about the deeper meaning in this book? Jake, you said you had like at least 20 minutes of stuff you wanted to say about the deeper meaning in this book, really.
That is what I said. Yeah. I was very taken.
The religious associations that you had, like some sort of Pastor
Indeed,
Jake stuff.
I really, it was just my longing for the empires of the past that have now turned to dust before our eyes.
Man, if we had the Christian prince.
This book is really about an attack on the bourgeois and their petty values that allow the Germans, quote unquote, to slip in among us and undermine our nation.
And all of Western civilization.
And
in the
all of
process.
Western civilization.
I read a book like this and my heart yearns for the halcyon days of Christendom that no longer is, and the types of manly men who, just ordinary Joes who populated it, who could do anybody in Buchan's day could have been Richard Hannay. But I dare you to find one man in 100 today off the streets that could be Richard Hannay.
Nay, 1,000. Man, we have a dearth of Richard Hannays in today's
It's a commentary.
post-Christian West.
It's just revealing the sad state of masculinity in our times and
Well, I too,
the cultural decay that led to it, thanks to
the Jewish influence, really.
yeah,
As Scudder
it is the final
explains.
problem.
Scudder explains all about it in this book.
It's funny, for all that he's probably an anti-Semite, this guy was a Zionist by the end of his political career.
Huh.
Anyway.
Well, I don't know. There's a line between actual xenophobia, which does exist and certainly did exist back then, exists now, and people just saying different races are different, which we aren't allowed to do then. And so like Chesterton, there's a lot of stuff that is kind of xenophobic, but also he's just like, this is the English character as I see it. This is the German character as I see it. This is the Chinese character as I see it. And you read it now and you're just like, oh no, Chesterton, you'll be canceled. But he's just like asserting that
Painting in generalities that certain people are certain kinds of ways.
right. Which,
They are.
yeah.
It's just true.
Yep.
It was Chesterton who said all good thought begins with generalization, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Any more deep thoughts anybody has? We all long for the halcyon day the return of the halcyon. We all long for
I forgot what I said.
the
too.
halcyon days of Christendom,
Christendom?
of early, yeah,
There you go.
of Christendom.
Of an empire that no longer is.
You said you were yearning for that empire as you read this book. I yearn for it. I don't have to be reading this book. I'd be drinking some water or something. I just yearn for it all the time.
Listen to some music and Coldplay comes on and I think, oh, for the days.
Yeah. Oh, we could be eating Pizza Hut right now. Look at what they took.
Look at what they took from us.
Man, internet conservatism and Christian
Oh
nationalism.
my goodness.
So lame. So lame. Guess what, guys? Pizza Hut was lame.
I still have nostalgia for it.
I do too. I love it. I'd give anything to go back, but I can't.
It's over.
My childhood is dead.
Build the Pizza Hut of tomorrow, guys.
Yeah.
Do
Build
is
pizza.
read
Build-
the 39
Raise your kids
steps,
to build.
guys.
Right.
Raise your kids to build the Pizza Huts of tomorrow.
Yep.
Maybe your grandkids will live up to the Pizza Hut of your past.
Maybe
but
your
it won't be you.
grandkids will have a personal pan pizza to call their own.
No.
But it won't be you.
It'll be space pizza. We don't need personal
We're
pan.
going to Mars.
Right. Do not yearn for the personal
Don't you
pan
know what
pizza
the
of the
aliens
past.
want? Pen.
Build the space pizza of tomorrow. Only the Christian prince.
He's the true Antichrist.
Who is Ben?
Oh, Elon Musk.
Oh, Elon Musk.
You can have your pie in the sky if you're willing to build the space pizza of tomorrow.
You can have your pie in the sky if you build the space pizza of tomorrow. I don't think we could.
Support this podcast at patreon.com/the Bookening.
There is no higher note to end on.
No.
Roll credits.
Well, I wish we could, but we need to call out our patrons. Sorry. All right. I will say the name of a patron.
It will say Pizza Hut or...
You can compare them to any pizza establishment that you think they deserve to be
Okay,
compared
well,
to.
I know what I'm doing.
All right. The Artful Anthony Dodger and Bootstrap Betsy, Ben.
Tyronies.
That's a place right here in town.
Local joint.
Little Anthony Cigar Store.
Pizza Hut.
The Immortal Chelsea E.
Oh, what's the place Roca Bar.
Another local joint.
Jimmy Beam and Little Annie Oakley.
Pizza Hut.
Andrew and Esther, the Lovebirds.
A-Zip.
He's up. Not local anymore alone, but started here.
Still kind of local to the tri-state area, though, right?
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think you
It was
can.
pretty far north, but yeah, I don't know.
Did I say the Keith Master?
No.
Okay, the Keith Master.
Papa John's.
Jade Katie, your Cold and Love Cheese, and also C.S. Lewis, including Tell Me Your Faces.
Pizza Hut.
You can get some good cheese at Pizza Hut. DJ Sam and G.
Domino's.
Benny Dan and Tiberius.
Pizza Hut.
Eric and Catherine from Beyond Window Breaks.
Una 2 Pizza.
Lavender's Green Dylan.
Pizza Hut.
Noah Constrictor.
Pizza King.
Merit Cheap.
Pizza Hut.
And the news Cold and Hate the Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Cheese and Brick Red.
And also Pizza King.
Jiu-Jitsu Jeffrey, the Texas Ranger.
Pizza Hut.
Midnight Ninja Ellen.
Taroni's.
Again?
Yeah. I'm doing double Taroni's this time.
Doubling
baby.
down on the local place that no one listening to this podcast will have heard of. Jay of Rack and Ruin.
Pizza Hut.
Eric and Kate the Camp Trap Kings were warm and love bees.
Little Caesars.
Sweet Jamie Sunshine.
Pizza Hut.
Cold Steel Cody.
A-Zip.
John Bombadilla Bomb Dickety and Captain Tennille his mate.
Pizza Hut. There are 10 locations alone, and 8 of them are in Indiana, and the farthest north is Lafayette. 2 in Kentucky.
Phrase it.
Yeah.
Saxophone Alex.
Mod Pizza.
Ryan, the Terror of Texas, and Eric of the Cream and Crimson, who long are stuck in the cold to please send cheese.
Pizza Hut.
Ben Solo and Kylo Ren.
Dante's Pizza. Another local place no one's ever heard of. None of us have ever eaten it.
I can think of at least one more chain and 2 more local places. John the Cosmic King of Chaos.
Pizza Hut.
Matty Matt Man.
Trying to think of the chain, man.
Little Caesars.
I said that one.
Did you say someone who would have worked for Mr. Little Caesar?
Did you say Noble Romans?
Oh, I didn't say Noble Romans then, for sure.
Annie, are you okay? Get your gun.
Pizza Hut. Noble Romans is an Indiana thing, but I don't know that it's... I
Is
think it
it
might be
really?
Bloomington.
Well, it's here, definitely here in town because there's one in that crappy
it
dead
any
mall.
good?
There used to be a really awesome Noble Romans in town on Green River Road that you could go to as a kid, and there's a whole row where you'd watch them make the pizzas, and then there were party rooms, and there was they'd drop a big projection screen down, and they would broadcast games on their projector. It was really, really cool.
Sounds
and
fun.
so you'd have a lot of team parties there.
That place kind of just died, though, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it's gone.
Thor Ragnar Josh.
Donato's.
Lady of the Crystal Lake.
Pizza Hut.
Jake, thanks for a second. And Mysterious Phantom.
Godfather Pizza.
Jeremy the Dark Hooded Lord of Death and the Brooding Bride. My
Pizza Hut.
Remains of the J.
Pizza Hut.
Lamorta Trenton.
See, I thought this was true. It began on the campus of Indiana University as a pizzeria in 1972. That's what I thought about Noble Romans. Now, A-Zip actually began by Evansville people in Lafayette for the same reason. They got a grant while they were students
Right,
Purdue.
right.
and did the same thing. So that's maybe sort of the flagship, but there are like 3 in Evansville and 1 in Newburgh. And then there's like Lafayette, Indianapolis, Bloomington, and Owensboro, Henderson or something.
Huh.
But it's cool and really good.
A-Zip's great. If you're in the area,
You get a chance, you should get it.
check it out. It's great. It's like the Subway of pizza, if that was a compliment.
Yeah, if it was, I don't know, upscale,
Upscale.
but cheap.
Yeah.
But still kind of upscale.
First, imagine that Subway was good.
Yeah.
And then imagine that there was a pizza place like Subway.
There you go.
Lamort de Trenton?
You did that one?
Yeah, but I don't think anyone gave me
Pizza
a
Hut.
pizza association. There we go.
Oh, I thought Jake had.
Daniel Man Among Men.
Oh, Papa John's.
Jen, who strikes every now and again.
Pizza Hut.
That's everybody. What was the pizza? Oh, you didn't say Pizza Bank, I don't think. That's in town.
There's Burger Bank. Is there Pizza Bank?
Yeah, we've got all kinds of banks where you can deposit
Man.
your pizza.
Thank you, Donut Bank.
There's Fat Boys Pizza, but I didn't want to give that to anyone.
It's too good.
It's too fat. P-H-A-T, Jake.
You're afraid of the associations? It's great pizza. Some people would say it's the best pizza in town.
Have you had it?
I have.
It is great, or what?
It's worth trying. You might decide it's
Is
the
it better
best.
than Taroni's?
It's more like Una pizza style,
Taroni's is Una Pizza style, though.
but it's not as loaded with. When I think of Una pizza style, I think
Okay.
like you've got this much
Yep.
crust and you've got like this big a layer of cheese that's
Yeah.
just like a solid mass of mozzarella on top. It's like that style.
Okay. All right.
Troni's is more spare.
Yeah. heavy with toppings.
Heavy with toppings, but more spare with the cheese. And this is more very cheese heavy, but good with its toppings too. It's just going to be a question of if you latch on to any one of their specialties. But I know people that live all over. Like there's a joint up around Hopstadt called Sandy's that people.
We've been there with John.
Yeah,
our friend John.
People love that, and they'll go up there for that. But people will come from the west side and from the north side and from Hopstadt to come down to Fat Boys.
Really?
Yeah, which is just down. If you don't know,
Covert,
it's just down the road from here.
Okay, I'm going to try it sometime.
Yeah.
I'll try Fat Boys too.
That and what's the place, the New York style pizzeria that I like so much? My wife and I lost its name. I know it well.
On North Green.
Yeah, it's
Lombardi's.
Great. Lombardi's, excellent.
I don't know that I've ever tried it unless I tried it once at your house.
You did have it once at our house.
Yeah, I remember. That is good.
It is. It's good. It's even better, like fresh. Just go there and get some. Yeah. It's awesome.
Cool. I hope this is all recorded.
No. This is going in.
Better
This is going in. How often do you guys think about noble Romans? Because I think about it all the time.
Every day.
That was when I realized I'd been wasting my life.
Yep, that's me.
That's me.
You're probably wondering why I've been wasting my life recording this podcast.
Why were we talking about pizza? We didn't really know.
We talked about pizza so long, it was no longer pizza. It was more like free pizza.
Now, Chip, I wish I had a good comeback for that, but I just can't think of anything to say except shut your mouth.
It would have to be a good opening statement in order for me to have a good comeback. So. All right, whatever. Here's your content, little piggies. Enjoy your swill. We obviously don't care for you. No, we do. We care for you a lot. We don't even think you're little piggies. And the fact that Ben can do just such a good impression of my voice and that he would say something, use it to say something like that, to call our listeners
I'm just
little
a
piggies.
jerk. You should never have hired me.
Yep. Yep. That's true.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. Until next time.
We don't do that here.
What don't we do?
Until next time.
Oh. All right. Sorry.